Okay, everyone's at level 27 now. That's good. Alright. I'm gonna do the review. So, I mean, you guys kind of already have a sense of how I felt about the game. I think this game, for a Game Boy Advance game, is one of the most impressive Game Boy Advance games I've ever seen. Like, it is a technological marvel. And at the time, this game was, you know, just as good as the majority of JRPGs that you could find on the SNES. And best of all, it was on a portable that you could take anywhere with you. I think that, you know, this game is really, really great for younger audiences. And it holds up today, as long as it's taken into context as a portable title. I don't think it really compares very well to other games that have come out since this game. You know, the way that you can tell a story has improved so much with cinematics, and there's only so much you can do with 2D graphics. So, in a game that's so story-focused, inevitably, you know, you're going to see other games that are superior. And that's the real thing about JRPGs, is that ever since the first generation of JRPGs, that is Final Fantasy 1 and Phantasy Star, JRPGs have sacrificed exploration and non-linearity in order to tell a story. And because of that, since it's sacrificing such an important part of role-playing games, you might have always wondered, why are these games even called role-playing games? Because originally, they were based upon D&D. But since then, they eschewed a lot of the tropes that actually make an RPG an RPG in favor for telling a story. So because of that, the story is the most important part of a JRPG. Now, so then, is the story any good? Since it's so important, I think that really needs to be examined. And the answer is actually, yeah, it is good, but it depends on who you are and what you're expecting. I think that this story is great for a younger gamer. The premise is simpler, in a sense, is that for a younger gamer, you know, just saving the world is good enough. You know, I don't think you really need anything more complicated than that. I don't think you need anything deeper than that. And that's why a lot of games from that time had that story. I mean, they're all like that. Final Fantasy VI was like that. Chrono Trigger was like that. They're all like that. I think she has some kind of weird ailment. So, if I played this when I was in middle school, I think I would have loved it. Especially at the time. Because this game was so far ahead of the time. Unfortunately, you know, for an older gamer, I don't think it can hold my attention. It doesn't hold my attention as well as some other stories do. And the reason is because I guess for an older person, you need more than just that. Like, I want to avoid saying that the game is too simple, because actually the story is pretty convoluted. They do a lot of different things. There's a lot going on, and how they actually go about saving the world is complex and intricate, and that's all well and good. But for someone like me, you need to have like other things that set it apart. You need to have characters that you can identify with, that you care about. The reason why I love Chrono Cross so much is because I love Kid. You know, if there was like one character in this game that I would love, then that character would have carried the entire game for me, because I would have been dying to find out what's going to happen to this character, what's going to happen next. Unfortunately, with this game, I didn't really care what was going to happen next. I was largely apathetic. I didn't really care about any of the characters. And also another thing is that I didn't understand the motivations of the bad guys. And I'm gonna have to tell spoilers, because there's no other way for me to review this other than telling the story, telling spoilers. You only understand the motivations of the antagonists in the second game. And it creates a huge plot twist. And that plot twist is great. It's actually a great plot twist. But unfortunately, in order for the plot twist to really work, you need to like the story in the first place. And since I didn't, you know, I would have had to gone through this entire game without really caring about, you know, the motivations of the antagonists. The antagonists are trying to save the world. They're actually the ones who are trying to keep the disc world together using synergy. And like our heroes that we're playing as right now are working against that. But it's odd, because the way the antagonists behave, it's like, why don't they ever explain their intentions to the main characters? Why don't they ever say, hey, why don't you guys stop getting in our way, because we're actually trying to save the world? Why don't we work together? And there's no compelling reason why they wouldn't believe that the main characters wouldn't agree to that, especially if they explained to them. That was never explained. I don't know if they ever explained that in the next game, but there was never a good reason why they didn't at least just tell these guys why they're doing what they're doing. Another thing that bothered me about the game was a lot of times they do a lot of exposition. They do a lot of talking about doing things, but they'll talk about it for like 30 minutes before they actually do it. And that's like a recurring thing. They constantly do that. And I'm like, okay, you guys are talking about escaping the cave, and the cave is collapsing, but you're not escaping. In the time that it took you to talk about escaping from the cave, you probably could have escaped from the cave. And that removes all sense of urgency from the situation. You know, like when you play Metroid, you know how the timer's running down and everything's about to blow up. You feel scared. You want to get out of there, right? You never feel that in this game, even though the same exact situation happened, right? You never feel worried or anything like that. And worse, there are so many instances where they're just talking, and you're waiting for them to, okay, let's go on our voyage. They just talk about it without actually doing it for a long time, and it's kind of annoying. The other thing that's annoying is they constantly ask me what I think about stuff. It's like, do you agree with this, blah, blah, blah? And you can answer yes or no, which is the dumbest thing in the world. I hate it when games do that. And this game is not the only one to do that, but this game does it the most. Like, even Zelda did that. Like, from time to time it'll ask you, are you willing to save the world for us, Link? And, you know, you can answer yes or no, and it's like, you don't have a choice. So what's the point in asking me? Like, it's so dumb, but in Zelda, at least it only happens like once or twice in a game. In this game, they ask you those stupid questions constantly, over and over again, without fail, about the most inane things, when the answer I give has no impact on the story or the gameplay. So what's the point in asking? Just don't ask. It doesn't do any good. It doesn't enhance the game. I don't know what the logic was in including that. You know, this is not Mass Effect, where the choices I have impact the game. It's a linear story. There's only one outcome. And more egregious is there is actually an instance in this game where they do ask you that question, and if you answer no to whether or not you want to save the world, the game ends. So if you didn't save up until that point, you're fucked. So, other than that, Everything else about the game is really solid. The graphics are gorgeous. The battle scenes look great. Like this is a perfect perspective. You know, if you ever played like Final Fantasy 1, the battle scenes look really generic, at least yeah, for the first game. Whereas in this one, it looks really great. Everything, the colors really pop. The music's great. And the combat's fun. I like the Jin thing. It actually does give you like summons, but unlike Final Fantasy, there's actually like a reason to kind of level up your Jins so that you can summon the more powerful ones later on. You know, whereas in Final Fantasy, you would just use the most powerful summon that you have. So in this game, it's a little bit more strategic and cool. So I like that. The enemy design's pretty good. Like I think someone mentioned that they didn't like the enemy design, but I think it looks pretty good. I mean, they all look fairly well. I mean, pixelated, but I mean that's kind of par for the course for. It's a Game Boy Advance game. The resolution's not gonna look all that great, but and not every enemy is gonna look all that great, but they all look pretty good in my opinion. The boss fights, you know, I initially said to Ali that I thought the game was easy, but you know, I jumped the gun with that. The game does become challenging. So there's a good challenge to the game. You do have to grind it out like I am right now sometimes. So it's not too easy. I think it's like pretty much the right balance of difficulty. You know, you don't want an RPG that's too hard, you don't want it too easy. If it's too easy, then it becomes really boring. I play games like that, and you just feel like, you know, you're wasting your time. You don't like the story especially. So really, that's all I gotta say. It's a if you love JRPGs, you can't get enough. I'll say this much: if you like Grandia, you'll love this game, and if you love this game, you'll love Grandia because it's basically the same kind of game. But I would say that this game's probably better than that game. If you love JRPGs, you'll love this game, and probably its sequel. That's all I gotta say.